I have been justified. My perspective is just like everybody else who has voted on my Instagram story. Is traffic in Fort Collins bad? I suggest to everybody who works with us coming in from out of state, out of country, or out of city to Fort Collins in northern Colorado looking to move that one of the things I lack most is perspective. And I can tell you that, well, a lot of other people in northern Colorado and Fort Collins also lack perspective. And that's what this video is going to talk to you about today is traffic in northern Colorado and Fort Collins. And does it suck? Where is it? Is it even something to take into consideration? What's up? My name is Patrick Soukup with Soukup Real Estate Services, and we are here in northern Colorado and Fort Collins. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. If you're looking at learning everything there is to know about northern Colorado, eating, sleeping, playing, working, and traffic. And as much as we like making these YouTube videos for real estate in northern Colorado and Fort Collins, we are licensed real estate agents and would love to work with you and yours if you're considering moving here. So give us a call, text, or email. We've got your back. Now, jumping into today's video, traffic in Fort Collins and northern Colorado. Let's go. So we are going to talk to you guys about a few different things considering traffic. The layout, kind of traffic problems, things to take into consideration, things specifically to Fort Collins, winter conditions, and then maybe a little bit of a side note. So Fort Collins is on a grid pattern, which really relieves a lot of the traffic issues. We have 5 kind of arteries going east and west and 5 arteries going north and south. And that really alleviates a lot of the pressures that would be on College Avenue and Harmony Road. And we don't have an interstate going through the city, kind of like Colorado Springs does, or Denver, or different communities. Our interstate really separates us from Timnath, Windsor, and then other cities along that east side, Severance and things of that nature. But as far as in-town commuting goes, you can really find your way different routes. So today, for example, I was taking some video about traffic patterns at Harmony Road and College Avenue, and then also Harmony and I-25. And I worked downtown. Well, I jumped on Harmony Road, took Ziegler, and then kind of took this little back path along Ziegler, up Timberline, on Prospect, down Riverside, Diagonal Road through Riverside, down in Old Town, and I was there about 15 minutes from I-25 in Harmony. And that was just because it was just a quick back road type deal. I could have gone Harmony all the way to College Avenue up north to Old Town, and just stayed on the major thoroughfares, but I decided to kind of take these back roads. So having this grid system alleviates a lot of kind of the traffic congestion that could potentially have occurred without that. Now we have some major intersections, kind of like I just discussed and have shown some video on, but Harmony Road, College Avenue, Harmony and I-25, specifically because of the growth of Timnath at rush hours, 8 a.m., 5 p.m., people coming to and from work. North and southbound down College Avenue, specifically between really Mulberry and probably LaPorte, is going to take you some time if you're trying to get north to Terry Lake or south side of town. That stretch is just really pretty congested. The lights tend to be in pattern, but that's going to be really kind of a tight situation. Then on the south side of town, Harmony Road and Trilby and College Avenue is really a congested area. Now, that is slated to be kind of refigured and reconfigured at the end of 2022 and into 2023, hopefully allowing for some decongestion. Because one of the things that I can tell you that people suggest that are coming in from out of state as to why there is no traffic here is because I would say that generally speaking, you're going to be at a stoplight for just one stop. You're not going to sit there for 2, 3, 4 stops, but at Trilby and College Avenue, you could be there for a few stops depending on the time of day. Now, some traffic jams and things to maybe consider or try to avoid here in northern Colorado at certain times in Fort Collins would be some of our parades. St. Patrick's Day parade doesn't really happen anymore, and a lot of that is because of traffic jams and issues. The Turkey Trot is going to go down in Old Town, so on that Thanksgiving Day, fortunately, there's not a ton of travel happening on that day, but they shut down College Avenue and the 4th of July parade and different things that happen downtown and events. We are still a small community, but growing. but traffic is definitely a major concern. So they have limited some of these parades and events that occur down in Old Town area that used to be really cool things and opportunities, but now due to traffic issues have kind of slowed down. Chick-fil-A and Raising Cane's. Something about the chicken here in town, I can tell you that there is a huge traffic issue, or there used to be a huge traffic issue, specifically Raising Cane's during that lunch hour time period, but they widened it to 2 order lines and really tried to alleviate some of that traffic. And then Chick-fil-A, same thing, except on Sundays, they do have a little bit of traffic there at College and Horsetooth Road. Then from there, CSU football, Prospect and College Avenue during the CSU football games can get pretty busy. And then CSU basketball games on Shields, really between Prospect and kind of Laurel, north and southbound, can get busy about half hour, between 15 to 30 minutes before game time tip-off, depending on how well CSU is playing that year. And we do have 4 major high schools, now 5, but the 4 in town will have a little bit bigger traffic issues. Fossil Ridge, probably not nearly as much because it's kind of southeast and really has a wide enough road, not as a lot of traffic lights, so probably not too bad there. But during that 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. time period, traffic can get a little busier during those times. Now, one of the things that when does traffic happen is during a lot of road construction. And in town, yes, we are doing road construction here and there, and they let you know beforehand, but really it's not too bad. They'll do a lot of overlays. My wife, Janae, she was talking like, why did we overlay LeMay? It did not need it. And I said, well, it might not have needed it now, but it would have actually probably saved a complete rip out and replace of that asphalt here in a few years. So Fort Collins is very proactive about getting some of that road construction taken care of beforehand. So only having to shut down a road for a week rather than 2 weeks to a month by having to completely rip out and replace that construction. But I-25 has been, it seems like, in construction for my entire lifetime. It probably has, because of the growth of northern Colorado. And I always suggest that it's about 10 years behind where it needs to be. Currently, there's a 19-mile stretch north and southbound I-25 that is about a $750+ million project that should be done coming 2024, that is widening I-25 from 2 lanes to 3 lanes. But I believe the third lane is going to be a toll lane. But to hopefully alleviate a lot of that traffic congestion going from Fort Collins all the way to Berthoud and then beyond. But once you get past Berthoud into Longmont, you really get into 3 lanes anyways. So hopefully once that happens, 2024, and all the construction in those I-25 areas is done, we are done with it and can move forward with our lives. But I'm sure with the growth of northern Colorado, we will see more traffic and need more construction as the time continues. Now, as far as congestion and traffic and growth of northern Colorado, Fort Collins is currently around 180,000 people. Our growth limits are suggested to be 250,000 people. That's kind of where we are expected to grow to at our capacity. But that doesn't mean that Windsor, Wellington, Loveland, Timnath, Severance, Berthoud, Johnstown, all these surrounding areas in northern Colorado aren't going to continue to grow. But I can say within Fort Collins, one of the things that the city is really focusing on is density of the town. They are trying to build up and along the Max Transit line. There is a big apartment complex being built along what used to be Kmart and now King Soopers. There's going to be 250 apartment units, and the hope is that they use the Max Transit for transportation north and south. There are more bus stops with transport. Bike lanes, 280 miles plus of bike paths throughout Fort Collins. So they are really pushing towards less vehicles on the roads. And even right now, there's a 60-day push to get 1,500 citizens in Fort Collins to just commute one less day. That's Shift Fort Collins. I will probably be signing up for this myself. I've already biked to work for an entire week, which was very difficult from the southeast all the way downtown, but doing it one day, no big deal, and I would absolutely love it. So I'm gonna sign up myself. But that being said, they're considering moving Mountain Avenue from 2 lanes to 1 lane, and again, really trying to get these bus systems, public transportation, cars off the roads. Walkability, bikeability is a big driver of Fort Collins, both for gas emissions and our air quality. as well as our carbon neutral by 2050 as the goal of City of Fort Collins. And one of the big ways we're going to do that is by limiting the amount of traffic on the roads, transitioning to electric vehicles, and things of that nature. Now, one of the things that you have to take into consideration when moving to Fort Collins in northern Colorado in general, is we are a 4-season state, and we are coming up into our fall, which is my favorite season, and winter time periods. And winter brings with it snowstorms. Now, we are not talking Alaska type snow and ice on the roads for 6 months, but we are talking potential 7 to 10 snowstorms. And when I talk a storm, I am talking 2+ inches of snow on the road annually. That equates into 14 to 20 shovels of your driveway. But what that means is that there's going to be snow on the roads. So take into consideration getting snow tires, because there are times where the temperature might drop from 50, 60 degrees in the afternoon to 20 degrees at 5:30 when the sun drops below the mountains and the roads get a little icy. So take into consideration, make sure to consider getting snow tires. Even if you have a rear-wheel drive, snow tires will help. All-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, consider getting snow tires and get them early, because people will line up at the discount tires. Coming pretty much at the end of October, middle of October, we will see a substantial amount of people getting their snow tires on their vehicles. From there, give yourself 10 to 15 minutes extra time, give yourself space. I ran into the back of my wife's vehicle at the time. She was my girlfriend. When we had just driven through Steamboat in whiteout conditions, white knuckle type conditions, and drop her off at her vehicle, little Ford Focus at the time. I was driving a 92. I was driving a Kia Sportage at the time, and she asked me if I could follow her in case she got stuck. She stopped. I stopped on a hill, could not slow down, and ran into the back of her vehicle. So make sure to give yourself enough space on those snowy, icy conditions, because I can tell you, especially if you're on a hill, that is where traffic jams will occur, is when there is crashes and accidents, and a lot of those are going to be during those snowy, icy times. So give yourself extra time and extra space when you're driving here in northern Colorado, especially if you're coming from a place that doesn't necessarily get too much snow, ice, or cold. Now, there we have it, traffic in Fort Collins. But I want to give a couple little side notes of things to take into consideration. We love our bikers, we love our cyclists, but there are pelotons and groups of cyclists, specifically around the lunch hours, early mornings, up along the dams on Horsetooth, that, and I cycle myself, so I could definitely be to blame on some of these things, but I try to take it into consideration. But they will take up the road. And so there can be a little bit of traffic when you get behind one of these big groups and you have to find your way around them, because they will take over the road. And it is frustrating, but it's a safety measure for the cyclists, and I get it. But fortunately, a lot of these bike paths don't have the cyclists on them. But little side note, take into consideration, don't get too frustrated. It's annoying, don't get me wrong. I'm part of that group every now and again, but I'm also behind that group. So I own a truck, but I also own a cycle, so I understand both sides. Now, the other thing is, although this is not Fort Collins, I would say the community that has the absolute worst traffic, specifically in a certain area, is Windsor, and they are trying to address it. Main Road 392, I believe, Main Street down Windsor, is a one-way each way through this community that is getting huge built up on the east side of Windsor and into Severance, as well as on the west side with Rain Dance and all the growth along I-25. But people have to commute to get to Eastman Park, and they go through this 2 lanes, and it's just absurd. It's ridiculous. I mean, 30 to 35 minutes to get from my house to Eastman Park, which is 7 miles away, through Windsor. So although it's not Fort Collins, I would have to say the worst traffic in northern Colorado is through Windsor Main Street, especially during those busy hours. Now, hopefully this video has helped you. If you have any questions specifically about Fort Collins, northern Colorado, traffic, whatever, again, my perspective sucks. And what I'm going to tell you right now is that when I put out a poll to people that from all over on my Instagram, I gave them 3 options. What is the traffic like in Fort Collins? No traffic. The traffic is awful and Fort Collins ain't built for it. Well, sometimes the traffic sucks. People from Fort Collins said the traffic is awful and that it is not built for it. People from out of state are like, are you kidding me? There is no traffic here. So it is hilarious to take into consider the perspective of individuals, whether they are from Fort Collins, local like myself, or from out of state and come from areas like Houston, Dallas, Boston, Seattle, Los Angeles. where there's real traffic. But I will say perspective is everything. And hopefully you can understand my perspective coming from Fort Collins, that I'm trying to grow with the times. But if you have any questions, concerns, or anything like that that you want to discuss further, definitely feel free to reach out. And specifically, if you're looking at buying, selling, or investing here in Northern Colorado, give me a call, text, or email. I've got your back when it comes to everything Fort Collins and Northern Colorado. Until next time, guys, take care.